There are various assessment models that exist in the world, and there is no one best model. You can select one or more models that best fit your decision-making project and assessment purposes. I've listed several evaluation models here and that have emerged in current organization in the training and development field. I believe you have completed your readings for this week, so I won't explain the details about each model. Instead, we briefly discuss the characteristics, strength, and weakness of each model to compare them. Stufflebeam's CIPP model. This is one of the most frequently used assessment tools in the field of instructional design. Under the systems approach, Stufflebeam's CIPP model is very popular in the field. It's a comprehensive model to assess intervention. We evaluate four parts of the intervention implemented using the CIPP model. The CIPP model stands for the four components: context, input, process, and output. In your textbook, you will find this graphic of the CIPP model. First, context evaluation is to obtain information about the organizational context to determine the intervention needs and identify objectives for the intervention. So it's to define goals and priority as well as desired outcomes. The second input evaluation is to determine the availability of resources and identify alternative program or intervention strategies if the resources are not available before implementing the intervention. It's also complete action plans, assess participants' characteristics, set up staffing plan and budget before implementing an intervention. Third, process evaluation is to assess whether the intervention was going well during the intervention and also identify any barriers to implement the intervention. So basically, it is to assess performance during the intervention. The last one, the product evaluation, is to make decision whether the intervention goals were met or not, and if the intervention is effective or not. So what is the strength of this model? This systems view of the evaluation enables us to see all the relevant elements in each component. In other words, what are the elements in each component and how the elements bring together to each component. Also, it enables us to examine how each component performed well within the system. How did the input part of the intervention go well? How did the process part of the intervention go well? How did the product part of the intervention go well? So this model allows us to compare the value of each component among the four components. Then what is the weakness? There is a lack of evaluation of the dynamic interaction among the four components. It's difficult to evaluate how each component relates to one another, such as how input relates to process and how process relate to output. This model is designed to evaluate each component separately. Also, there is a lack of evaluation of the collaborative process among people with different roles and responsibilities. Who holds these roles and responsibility in each component, and how did they contribute the entire intervention process? Kirkpatrick's four levels of evaluation is one of the most widely known models in the training and development field. It has four evaluation levels: reaction, learning, behavior, and results. In the reaction level, you can measure whether trainees like their training courses or not. Reaction is measured during immediately after training. In the learning level, You can measure to what extent the trainees have increased their skills, knowledge, or desired attitude. Learning is measured before and after training. In the behavior level, you can measure to what extent the trainees have applied what they have learned on their jobs. Behavior is measured after training. It could take more time to measure the trainee's behavior after they took the training. For example, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or a year after the training. The result level, you can measure the success of a training program in terms of organizational results or changes because of improved behaviors. For example, production quality, reduced customer complaints, or increase the sales or profits. Strengths. It's easy and simple to evaluate an intervention from the reaction to business results levels. Weakness. People were asked about their hierarchical evaluation approach. According to Kirkpatrick, learners' satisfaction with the training is related to their training, which means that if they are satisfied with the training, they will learn. But what about the people who don't like the training? Will they not learn? While a positive reaction can motivate trainees to learn, those who perceive the negative experience can still learn. So Kirkpatrick's hierarchical approach has a problem. Another main criticism of his model is that it's too simplistic, particularly when evaluating higher levels of learning. For example, Kirkpatrick suggests using self-reports to measure behaviors and results, asking participants to estimate the training cost of the effectiveness of the training programs. But self-reports using interviews or survey questionnaires can be very subjective and may mislead assessment results. I don't strongly recommend to use self-reports, particularly to assess a higher level of learnings, such as levels 3 and 4. We need more objective measurements than just self-reports. What is a Phillips model? Phillips has added a fifth level called return on investment to Kirkpatrick's full level evaluation. His model then is composed of reaction, learning, behavior, results, and ROI. ROI focuses on comparing a training program's benefits to its cost by isolating the effects of the program from other intervening variables and converting the data into monetary values. He offers a systematic, step-by-step approach to measure ROI. For the ROI process, please read his book. Actually, we will learn about the whole process of his model in this class. Strength. Return on investment has been used in business as a means of determining the value of investment in financial terms. So it's critical for business leaders to calculate the ROI of the intervention they implemented. Although Phillips expanded Kirkpatrick's full levels of framework, just adding a fifth level ROI, he introduces how to measure ROI with a systematic process in order to show the financial value of a training investment. So it's much better than Kirkpatrick's model, the method to measure business results after training. Weakness. Weakness parts in his model is ROI is only concerned with how much a training is worth using ROI formula, numbers. It's difficult to measure soft data, which is non-monetary value, human behavior. It is also very difficult to isolate training benefits only from other intervening variables that also impact the business results. So if you don't understand what these intervening variables are, don't worry, we will cover them in Module 4. However, the criticism of Phillips' ROI model is not based on his model itself, but on the measurement of ROI in the field. This is an important topic to understand ROI measurement, but we will not be discussing why it is difficult to measure ROI in the field in this course. We had an assignment related to this topic in previous courses, but I removed it because the difficulty and complexity of the topic, and many students were struggling to complete that assignment. That being said, if you are interested in measuring ROI, you can find information on this issue in the optional reading of Module 4. What is the Berkeley-Wien change model? This change model assesses organizational and environmental factors to facilitate successful change. The key aspect of this model is understanding how its 12 dimensions interact, as shown on the screen. Later, 2 additional dimensions, equipment and working environment, were added. Each of these dimensions influences the others, making their relationship crucial for implementing smooth and effective change. Let's briefly go over each key factor. First, external environment. It is to identify key external factors that impact the organization both directly and indirectly. Second, mission and strategy. It examines the organization's vision, mission, and strategy as defined by top management, as well as how employees perceive them. Third, leadership. It's to assess the leadership structure and identify key role models in the organization. Fourth one is organizational culture. It evaluates the organization's culture based on rules, regulations, custom, principles, and values that influence behavior. Fifth, structure. It examines both the hierarchical and functional structure, focusing on responsibilities, authority, communication, decision-making, and control mechanisms. Sixth, systems. It assesses policy and procedures for both employees and operations. Seventh, management practices. It evaluates how well managers align their actions with the organization's strategies when handling employees and resources. Eighth, work unit climate. It assesses the employees' thoughts, feelings, expectation about their workplace. Ninth, tasks and skill. It evaluates the job skills and knowledges required for specific roles, ensuring a good match between jobs and employees. 10th, individual values and needs. It explores employees' perspectives on their work to identify factors that enhance job satisfaction and enrichment. 11th, motivation level. It measures employees' motivation to determine their willingness to contribute toward organizational goals. 12, individual and overall performance. It assesses performance at both individual and organizational level in key areas like productivity, quality, efficiency, budget, and customer satisfaction. Later, 2 additional dimensions were added. The 13, equipment. It evaluates the tools and technology available to employees for completing their tasks. 14th, work environment. It assesses workplace facilities, including buildings, office, cafeteria, and recreational spaces for staff. So what are the strengths for this model? This model is a great tool for managing organizational change It helps identify problems within our organization and provides a structured approach to developing action plans. One of the biggest advantages is that it highlights key factors involved in change and how they interact, making the process more predictable and manageable. Then what are the weaknesses of this model? The model's effectiveness depends on how well each 14 dimensions is applied. These vectors need to be measurable and practical to provide useful insights. If they cannot be measured properly, the evaluation won't be as effective in guiding change. All right, let's talk about Brinkhoff's success case method in a way that makes sense and connects to what we've already covered. SCM is a quick and cost-effective way to figure out what's working or not working in an intervention. Instead of analyzing everything in details like some evaluation models, SCM focuses on real stories to provide a data-driven evidence about success and improvement areas. Stories help us see whether an intervention is actually making an impact, what results have been achieved, and what still needs improvement. This method is especially useful for organizational leaders because it presents results in practical business terms, helping them make faster evidence-based decisions. How does the SCM work? There are two key parts to this method. The first key part is the identifying the best and worst cases. We collect the real-life stories from people who had a great success with an intervention and those who struggled with it. This helps us understand both the positive and negative experiences. The second key part is the backing up the stories with evidence. These stories aren't just opinions or testimonial. They are fact-based and must hold up like everyone in court. The goal is to show real data on how participants used the intervention and what results they achieved. You might remember from Module 1 when we talked about the performance analysis, the data should always be interpreted based on facts, not assumptions. SCM follows the same principle. Here is a simple breakdown of the 5 steps of an SCM study involved. First, plan the study. The evaluator creates a clear strategy for gathering useful information, defines success with an impact model. This is the second step. This outlines what success should look like, helping us know which behavior or result to focus on. Third step is surveying participants to find the best and worst cases. The survey is just a starting point to identify a small group of successful and unsuccessful participants for deeper evaluation. Fourth step, interviewing and documenting success cases. This is the most detailed step where we capture real actions and results. We also examine key factors that influence success, like supervisory support, incentives, and available tools. The last step is communicating the findings. Finally, the results are summarized in a clear, concise report that explains what worked, what didn't work, and what should be changed to improve performance. So what are the strengths of the SCM? We've already touched on this. SCM is a fast and cost-effective method. It helps organizations make quick decisions by providing clear, evidence-based insights into whether an intervention is working. Then what are the weaknesses of the SCM? SCM isn't perfect. It's a narrow approach that only looks at a small numbers of extreme cases, the best and worst performers. That means we don't get insight from the majority of participants who fall somewhere in between. As a result, it doesn't give a complete, well-rounded evaluation of an intervention.